Alright guys, so about a week ago I was able to get the Dark Angels Combat Patrol box, and I've been waiting for the perfect time to try and dig into it. I got the next couple days off, so we'll see. We'll see if I can knock out this entire kit by the end of the weekend. Shouldn't be too bad. It's only, 8 models, 9 models in a dreadnought? Should be manageable. So, I'll get you over here, and we'll start doing some time lapse. For those of you who have not gotten your hands on this box yet, it is a wonderful kit. The Intercessors, well, ridiculously complex, and the Inceptors, well, ridiculously complex, are a really nice addition. The first one up here is the Chaplain. He was really pretty quick just to clip out, clean up, get glued together. I swapped out a Reaver head on him because I felt like I wanted something just a little bit different than what's standard in the box. After that came the Redemptor dreadnought. I hadn't done one of these before, and I was really looking forward to getting my hands on this. As I went along, what I quickly realized was that this guy stands head and shoulders over the old dreadnoughts and is probably about twice the bulk. It's a pretty impressive model. I got a Leviathan, and I thought that thing was big. Nope, it's not. Alright, so yeah, first time building a Redemptor. Definitely a lot more parts than I thought, and this guy, it's a bit ridiculous. So it's going to take a little while longer, but I'm going to keep after it and we'll see where we end up. Alright, if we're going to make that deadline, no time to waste, so right back at it. You can see I've got my cork going down. I've got a multi-layered effect on there. I'm going to try and prop one of his legs up. We'll see how posable this kit is. I'm not overly optimistic, but I think I can make it work. And there we go. Alright, legs went down without too much trouble. After that, it was time to move over to the arms. I wanted to go with a macro plasma. It seems like the beefiest weapon choice, the one that's going to do the most damage. After I had those arms on there, it's just a matter of playing with them, figuring out what exactly I wanted to do with it. Once I got them to a position where I actually liked them, I decided to put a little drop of glue in there. From there, I went and got my first taste of the Intercessors. These multi-part Intercessor kits are ridiculous. Once again, this put me a little bit behind what I had expected for my timetable. Once I did finally have everything together, it was time to bust out my Vallejo Earth texture. If you guys haven't used this stuff, it's a really nice basing compound. It's really got a good texture to it, and it sticks to the base really well. Alright guys, so that took way longer than I thought it would to get these things assembled. But they're ready, and we're ready to go to paint. So let's hope this goes a little bit better. Alright, so finally to the part that I really enjoy. We're going to get a base coat on all these models. This is going to be a Style Res black primer. And then I'm going to come back from the top with a Zenithal prime. And without the fancy title, all that means is I'm spraying white from above to create a look of shadow on the model from the get-go. It's better to take this in multiple passes. Your paint will lay down thinner and apply better without obscuring any of the detail that a thick coat could. It's time to mix up some red. This is going to be burnt red from Pearl Krill. This is my favorite starting point for all my shadows in my red power armor. After that, I'm going to be super clumsy, knock a model off, break the Chaplain's pistol, and have to get the glue back out. Ultimately, this didn't look too bad, but you can still see a bit of that seam. Was not very happy with that. But back to the red. You can see here I'm going to shoot it from the bottom, and I'm going to be concentrating on all the areas that are already black because of that shadow map that I did when I Zenithal primed it. It comes in really handy, even if you don't let the actual black, gray, and white show through. For the infantry models, it's going to be the exact same. Spray it from the bottom, hit those dark areas, and get a really good flat coverage. Moving on up, bold pyro red. I'm going to thin this down with some airbrush thinner, just to give me a little bit more of a translucent, less opaque layer. That's going to really help me when I go to blend in to that burnt red. It's going to marry those two layers together, give you a nice transition, and really prevent any kind of stark lines. Then you can see here, I'm keeping a little bit of that bold pyro red in, putting a little more airbrush thinner in, and adding my orange. This is going to again marry those colors together, as well as keep my blends and my transitions super smooth. You can tell on the infantry models it's a little bit more precise work. I'm trying to keep my needle in close so that my spray does not go wide and I get a nice pop on the highlight. Anytime you're airbrushing, those airbrushed layers are beautiful, they're amazing, and they're super fragile. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying down gloss coat. This is a varnish and it's going to protect everything underneath it. After that, I'll be grabbing my coal black. This is a nice color from Pro Acryl. Goes on pretty matte. Well, a lot of what I'm doing with my black is using it to break up the areas of red. Kind of give it some visual distinction and give your eye a little bit of relief from the solid red wall. On the infantry models, it's a little more standard. You got things like the joints, the gloves, pistols, things like that that are normally going to be black. People kind of expect to see that, and if you deviate from it too much, even if you do it well, sometimes it can just look a little bit strange. Sometimes it really is best just not to rock the boat. And in case you're wondering, this is how I paint 80% of the time. It's honestly just a lot more comfortable, and now that I got some massive lights behind me, I can still see really well. Alright guys, get ready to witness some magic. This is one of the other huge benefits of gloss coating. I'm going to get just a little bit of thinner on this Q-tip, then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to clean up all my armor. You can see some black here, no more black. Just think of this as a save point for your paint job. Really helps. You can do this with brush on stuff too. Alright, after that, it's time to highlight the black. You could do it with a brush, but I got an airbrush, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. I've also got the benefit of that gloss coat. So if I mess this up and if I overspray, I can probably still go back and clean it up without losing any of the actual detail. For this, I'm dropping my PSI down to around 15 and keeping the needle real close. That airbrush is almost touching this model. Trying to prevent any kind of overspray, any kind of spread to the pattern by keeping it tight and keeping the pressure low. Then after I get that gray highlight, I'll come back in with pure white and do the exact same thing, but I'll try and do it on an even smaller area. I want you to see the gray transition, and then I want you to see the white pop in the center. Additionally, I'm going to go ahead and hit these plasma coils. In my experience, the best way to do plasma is to start with a super bright center, put your base color over top, so like a glaze or a layer, something that's not going to obscure the white, but it's going to get some vibrancy from it, and then to go back in and paint your whites again to make the pop the biggest and the brightest you can get it. Alright, now that we've pushed the grays and the whites, I'm going to come back in with a little bit of black ink and push the blacks again. Here you can see that cleanup step. It's similar to what we did before, but right now I'm only looking for overspray, which is a little bit harder to find sometimes. Moving on from there, a little bit of gray brushwork. Stuff like this is really, I don't know, tedious. Not tedious, but it's time consuming. We'll go with that. It's time consuming work. From there, we're moving on to our light umber and ivory. This is going to go on all the cloth, all the bone, on the wings, stuff that needs to either stay brown or move up to more of a white. I know, the wings, they're a little small, right? But I really enjoy them. These are off my Sanguinary Guard kit. And more than anything, it's just a little bit of Blood Angels embellishment. Here we are, we've mixed in a little bit of ivory into our brown. And I'm going to come back in for a second pass. But I won't be obscuring all the light umber underneath. The way you get a nice pop and a nice transition is to leave a little bit, and then on your next pass you cover even less space, and then your next pass you cover even less space, gradually building up to a nice bright white. While we're on the Redemptor here, let me just say that I really enjoy this kit. I know it's big, I know it's bulky, but this is a big but. You can pose the arms a lot more freely than you can the original dreadnoughts. Time to fuel my bad habits. This is really the only way I can keep from snacking. It's just to keep chewing on some gum. Keeps me busy. After that, I'll clean up some intercessors I'm working on for a different project, and we'll get back to the paint. For all my gold, I'm actually using copper from Pro Acryl. This is a little bit of a different recipe, but all this is copper, and then I'm going to mix in silver and do gradual highlights with that, eventually building up to a pure silver highlight. But, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to get colored copper, so that silver's going to wait. And here we go with the rivets. I'm just going to fast forward this for you guys because I know it's in the name, but it's definitely not riveting. From a painting perspective, the inside of this sarcophagus with those doors open is amazing. There's a lot in here that you can use to draw somebody's eye into the center of this model. And as with everything else in my Blood Drinker army, we're going to put gold weapons on them, because why not? And here's that Chaplain. We haven't seen this guy in a while. He's coming along pretty nice. The biggest challenge with him was just trying to get those robes to have a nice fluctuation in value as you go from the recesses to the highlights. From there, I'm going to start painting up all my bases. I'm going to base these out in the same thing that I used for all the browns on the model. This is just some light umber. I really find it helps to tie the two items together, the model and the base, if you use a similar color in both. Alright, time for some of those highlights. You can see this is some silver that's mixed into the copper. Gives me a nice mid-tone. I'm going to lay this down, and then I'll come back one more time with a watered down glaze of pure silver. So my goal with this is to mostly play with the light. So I'm going to be doing upper facing areas and areas of interest. And then after that, I'm actually going to do another coat of varnish. This is my second checkpoint. I have no idea what gashed this thing open, but I'm pretty glad it didn't get my skin. That was a pretty clean cut, and yeah, that would not have been a fun day. So here is the reason why I did a second checkpoint. This is AK Interactive's Streaking Grime. This is a beautiful product. It's an enamel wash, and it is super messy. Yep, sorry about that cutting mat. I'll get you cleaned up here in a sec. This is why we can't have nice things, right? Alright, let's be smarter about this. I'm gonna grab that airbrush paper that I was using to protect it earlier, and just recycle it for this purpose. Alright, onto the big boy. Making sure I've got a big brush to do this. It's gonna take a while, but the effect that you'll see after this is beautiful. I love it. It's this nice, dark, rich, vibrant orange red. And this is really the only way that I've found to get this effect, get this certain look. And there's really no better way to show you what I mean than a side-by-side. So on the right, no streaking grime. In the center, streaking grime's been applied but not cleaned off. And on the left, it's been cleaned off. As you can see, the tone is so much darker, so much richer. It's just hard to beat. This will trash whatever you're using to clean it up. So find yourself some old t-shirts, some holy socks. You know, don't ruin your good stuff with this. I was having a little bit of difficulty with some of the parts of this dreadnought, so I grabbed some terps and used that to clean it up. And that worked really, really well. Shouldn't be too surprised, as that's what I use to clean the brushes afterwards. Another note, use synthetic brushes on this. Do not use your nice brushes. If you have sable hair brushes, no way. They will get torn up by this. Don't do it. And a little more cleanup. Yeah, that mat's still got some spots. They're probably never coming out. If you're going to do Inceptors, don't glue these things on until you're done. I did. I was an idiot. I broke them. I'm going to come back in and do another highlight. This one is going to be, again, a mix of copper and silver. and then a very small application of silver. It's possible that I could wait until after the enamel step to do this, but I like to build my layers. I just really feel like it gives the model a more well-rounded feel, a more realistic feel. Alright, back over to this macroplasma. I'm going to start putting white back in, and I'm going to make it brightest towards the bottom, and then kind of diffuse as it goes to the top. A little bit of green for the eyes, and then it's over to edge highlight. This is a nice tan flesh, and it works really well on the reds, and you can honestly use it on the blacks as well. It does help keep me away from white, and anybody that's done edge highlights in white know that it's usually too much. Alright, so here we are. Left leg is edge highlighted, done up all nice and pretty. The right leg's how it was. I haven't touched this one yet, and you can definitely tell the difference. It does take up your time, it is rough, but it's definitely worth it. The results are... you can't argue with that result. Alright, time to protect this model a little bit. I've still got those gloss coats down, but I'd rather not do cleanup on this now. I'm going to come back in with my camo green and start laying down my base color on my plasma. I wasn't really sure what color I wanted to do on the plasma. I thought about going back to pink. I've got like a pink purple plasma that's pretty cool, but I've got a fluorescent green that I really want to play with, and I think this is a good chance to do that. We'll go ahead and do it with the Inceptors as well. Inceptors are a little bit easier to manage. I'm just going to use my fingers to mask off where I don't want paint going to. Usually that's just the back side of the pistol. A lot of it's all about angles as well. If you're using an airbrush, just that old adage of know your target and what's behind it. You know, firearm safety can work here too. After those green coats are down, I'm going to go ahead and put in some more white. This step is what's really going to help my fluorescent green pop when I get it on. If you put it over a green coat, it's alright, but if you put it over a white coat that's on top of green, it's going to look really good. The farther on we get in this, the slower things tend to go, because you're working on small areas, but you're trying to be a lot more precise. Alright, here we go. Dollar Rounty, fluorescent green. This stuff looks pretty, we'll see if it works. Quick little dab on there, and just start pulling it towards the bottom. Building it up on that lower layer. And I like what I see. I'm a pretty big fan of their inks, and this one is no exception. And while you're edge highlighting, you might need a little bit of inspiration. If you're a Blood Angels player, go check out John over at Blood Angels Commander. He's got a lot of good math hammer, a lot of good tips, tricks, things that'll really up your game. Back over to my favorite flight stands, Inceptors. Gonna go ahead and do some of the exhaust. I have it based in white, just put a glob of white inside each of those, and then I came back with blue to spray over top of it. From there, it's back to the bases. This time I'm going to be working on the rocks. This is just a mix of my coal black and my bull titanium white. I'd like to do that because that allows me to mix the two differently, get a different hue. I can tint and get a highlight, or I can shade it down, and I can get a recess color. It just gives me a lot of freedom. A lot of times when I'm painting, I find that working with less is actually more. After that, it's time to grab that coal black again and start doing my base rims. Because you know what? We are right there. This thing is finally done. One last touch. I'm going to put a little bit of flock on top. So it's just PVA glue. Again, a synthetic brush because you don't want to ruin your nice brush. And a little bit of flock. And that's it. No, I lied. One more step. A little bit of quick freehand on the dreadnought. Gotta represent the blood drinkers. So that's it, guys. That is the entire Combat Patrol box. It's a really nice kit. Lots of good value in it. a little bit of a pain to build those multi-part kits, but overall, definitely, if you need some Space Marines in your life, go out and grab that. It won't let you down.